Hello everybody, and it's Mr. Burns in the Weather Studio, and today we're going to be doing your 8th spring update. I think it's the 8th one now. This is going to be one of the final spring updates. We're getting already, we've been through March, so we've been very late with these spring updates, but you know, the reason we're doing them is simply because Gav hasn't done them this year. He's got a lot going on. His mum's been very ill, and now he's got a stage 1 mouth cancer. So, you know, it's very bad. And I wish Gav the best, and hope he gets back to normal very soon, so we can carry on doing more weather videos. Um, so, um, in this update, just a quick update. Going to look at precipitation, winter precipitation. So just thought I'd start to show you the central England temperatures. We're having a very warm March at the moment, 7.6, 2.2 degrees above average. It keeps going above average, and and we've got a few more days of very warm weather to go. So yeah, temperatures that's probably gonna get up to around 8 degrees. So very warm March, and then when we get to Monday, it's going to turn quite a lot colder, so that will probably go back down. So I predict we'll probably finish up somewhere in the 7s for the CET, which would be a very mild March. Anyway, for this update, we're going to look at central England temperature. So we're looking at the England and Wales precipitation series that goes back all the way back to 1766. So a very long time ago. This winter had precipitation of 245.5 millimeters. And basically we're going to look at winters which had you know, similar precipitation values. So these are the winters. So we've got we're looking at winter precipitation between 230 and 260 millimeters, which puts this winter with 245.5 slap bang in the middle of that range. So we've got 1955, 1956, 1962, 1969, 1975, 1983, 1987, 1991, 1996, 1998, 2002, and 2015. So these are all years that had winter precipitation between 230 and 260 millimeters, and we're going to look at the springs that followed those winters. So let's get on with it, shall we? So first winter up is winter of 1955. Sorry, the spring of 1955, because we're looking at the springs following those winters, because that's what's interesting. So this one has high pressure around Greenland and Iceland, low pressure to our east, pulling down winds from a northerly direction, so relatively dry but quite a cold spring. I would have thought for 1955. Next up we've got 1956. This one has high pressure just out to our west, low pressure to the south, probably bringing winds from like a northerly direction again, so probably quite a chilly spring again in 1956, but relatively dry. Next up we've got 1952, so this one has high pressure northern blocking around Greenland and Iceland, low pressure over into the east of the country, winds down from like a north to northeasterly direction. That's quite a cold and wet spring in 1962, so not a great start for winters. I mean springs. If you want a warm and dry spring, this one has northern blocking, high pressure in the northern latitudes, low pressure over into the south of the country, winds in from an easterly direction again. It's quite a cool and unsettled spring in 1969. This one, 1975, has high pressure, strong high pressure around Iceland, deep low pressure to the south. Again, wind in from a northeasterly direction. Again, looks quite a cool, quite a chilly and unsettled spring in 1975. So this isn't a great batch of analogues, and it doesn't get any better for 1983 with a mid-Atlantic ridge and trough of low pressure parked over the top of the country. So that's a cold and wet spring in 1983. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Next up, 1987. This one a little bit better with a bit more of high pressure close to the country, trough of low pressure for southeastern parts of Europe, probably bringing winds down from like a northerly direction, but at least it will be a bit drier in that spring. Next up, 1991. This does look a bit better with high pressure pretty much centred over the top of the UK. We've got a trough to our south and southeast. That's the case with a lot of these winds. We have a trough to the south and southeast, with high pressure tends to be in the northern latitudes. Winds from probably maybe from a northern or northeast direction a lot of the time, so probably not overly warm, but quite a dry, pleasantish sort of spring, would have thought, for 1991. Next up, we've got 1996 with strong northern blocking, low pressure to the south, winds in from the east. So I think this falls on from the cold winter of 95-96, so probably quite cold in March 1996, but then probably turning very warm and dry into May 1996. That would be my guess, with a lot of easterly winds in that spring. Carry on the pattern from the winter, of course. Next up, we've got 1998 with mid-Atlantic ridge, low pressure to our east, winds down from northerly direction. Probably quite a chilly spring. I know this year had an exceptionally warm February. And then in April, I think it went very cold and snowy for a time. So, yeah, quite a strange year, that one. Next up, we've got 2002 with low pressure to our west, high pressure to the east, probably bringing winds up from a southerly to south easterly direction. Oops, mouse is not cooperating. There we go. So probably quite a warm spring in 2002. There we go. And oh, sorry, there we go. Finally, 2015, which is the last time we had a winter with precipitation between 230 and 260 millimeters. The spring of 2015 looks like this, with high pressure to our south, low pressure to the north, winds in from the west. Quite a westerly spring in 2015, and quite unremarkable, really. Putting it all together, then, this is how it looks. So overall, it's quite a cool and unsettled signal, with high pressure northern blocking to the north in a lot of these springs, low pressure over Europe and over the UK as well, to some degree, winds in from a northeasterly direction. So overall, it looks quite a cool and unsettled signal for this springs. So not such a good update for this one if you want a warm, dry and sunny spring, but for most of these updates have favoured a warm and dry spring, so I wouldn't be too disheartened by this set of analogues. Yeah, that's how the spring's looking with this set of analogues. A cool and unsettled signal, but it goes against what most of these updates have found, which has favoured a warm and dry spring. So I think that does it now for the spring analogues. I think we might have a look at the seasonal models, and then probably after that, hopefully release the forecast, hopefully before the end of April. I mean, before the end of March, sorry. I definitely want it out before the end of April, otherwise, we're in danger of the spring being over before we even release the forecast. But yeah, so yeah, that's how it's looking, and yeah, so yeah, hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks very much for watching. Bye.